This is the Conone65 by KindaKeyboards in the Shady Green colorway. It's a unique sharp-edged keyboard utilizing a screwless magnet mount for the case and uses a bottom mount layout. Before we can build this board up, let's first break it down. The magnetic case easily comes apart by pulling the top half of the case up. The aluminum plate comes off with 8 screws using a PH00 head, and link in the description to get this awesome electric screwdriver. So then we've got the PCB, the daughter board, and a cable to connect them all together. Now, before we do anything else, we need to test the PCB to ensure that it's working, especially since it is a solder PCB. To do that, I connected the PCB to the daughter board with the included cable and tested each switch using metal tweezers. Be sure to do this before any of your keyboard builds. For this build, I wanted to go with a smooth linear switch on the aluminum plate. So I recently picked up these Ultraglide switches from R&D KBD. These are Hyperglide Cherry MX Blacks that have been mechanically broken in, hence the name Ultraglide. While they are pretty smooth out of the box, I decided to also lube and film these with Krytox 205G0 and Deskeys films. I did also bag-lube the springs with GPL 106 oil. To get a sense of if these were the right switches for the build, I threw a few on the board and assembled it just to try them out. The feel was very smooth, but the sound was a little bit hollow, but we'll get to that later. For the stabilizers, I'm doing something new, and instead of using my tried and true Durock V2 wholly modded stabs, I'm going to be using the AEBoards Staebies, which have grown in popularity quite recently. I first tested out the wires on my phone's screen, and they felt pretty well balanced at stock. Staebies have nylon housings and palm stems, which should help add to a deeper sound profile. I have also heard that these have very tight housings, so I very lightly lubed the housings and stems with 205G0, and for the wires, I dipped them in a dielectric grease and did a little bit of Minterly's plugging the butt method. Installing these on the PCB was easy, and I used the included rubber O-rings with the screws. All the stabs sounded pretty solid, and at the time of filming this, I thought the spacebar had just a little bit of ping to it, but a few days later, it all worked itself away. Now, to deal with the hollow sound, we can do 3 things: PE foam, polyfill, and or masking tape. I ended up just using PE foam for this build because it sounded a lot better in my opinion, and to do that, I cut a piece of PE foam to size of the PCB and then cut out the bits for the mods. And now it's time to solder. For that, I was sent this very cool magnifying glasses headset with a built-in light, which does help solder carefully and accurately. These are from Kinetic Labs. While I'm no expert, I have successfully soldered multiple boards in the past. To solder in switches, carefully use a soldering iron to heat up the tip of the switch pin as well as the gold contact surface of the PCB. Then melt just a little bit of solder onto the socket so it sort of fills it in. Then just rinse and repeat for all your switches. Be sure to test everything again at the very end once you've completed soldering. For the final assembly, I just connected the daughter board and screwed the plate down and threw on the magnetic top case. And to finish off this green theme, I went with GMK Botanical with an Artisan keycap from Dwarf factory. And now for the sound test of the Conone65 built with lubed and filmed Ultraglide MX Black switches, lubed Staebies, GMK Botanical, PE plate foam, and 2 layers of PE case foam. Alright, so the Conone65. It has a beautiful design with sharp edges all around the board. The 5-degree typing angle is a little bit smaller than I personally like, but it doesn't cause any issues for typing, and a wrist rest definitely isn't needed. I think the overall design is nice, but it's a little bit simplistic for its rather high price point at 410 euros or nearly 500 USD, and I do absolutely love the magnetic top case, but I'm not a huge fan of a bottom mount keyboard in general. There's not a lot of flex, and it is quite stiff, which you may or may not be looking for. I do wish I had a brass plate with this build, because I do think a brass plate with the bottom mount and some tactile switches would have been quite nice. I do know that a Conone80 is in the works with some improved features, and I'm personally hoping for a gasket mount. The board did sound a little bit hollow, which makes sense given the empty space underneath the bottom mounted PCB and plate, but that was easily remedied with some PE foam. Overall, I love the build and design of this board, and will definitely be keeping this unique piece in my collection for a while. So thanks for watching this video, be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next one.